we go.
Haha, we're here.
Oh no, all the stuff flew out of our cup. Yet again.
Oh, yep. We just need to get a bigger cup, I guess. Maybe a bowl would be better.
No, all the other ones are like weird, like whiskey sniffers, or there's a snowman. But
Snowmen are fun.
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to episode... Dad, you gotta fuck with the aerial again, because Troop F is too blurry.
F-Troop.
F-Troop, that's what it was. Man,
Yeah.
This joke will never be funny again. Okay, podcast with bad people. I am CJ.
I'm Robert.
And we're here to talk about the movie by the Coen brothers, A Serious Man, and what games we'd like to turn into movies.
Yep.
But before that, Robert, do you have anything special for us?
I do have a nice little quiz for you.
All right, I will be the guy who tries to answer them, gets them all wrong.
And the arbiter of whether it's actually a good quiz or not. But so I thought today, since we're doing a Coen Brothers movie, I'd do some research on the Coen Brothers and write up a nice little Coen quiz for you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, question 1. The Coens grew up in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, which is a suburb of Minneapolis. And they bought their first camera as children. They saved up money for that camera doing a job. You get to guess what job they did to save up that money.
Okay.
So, were they A, mowing lawns, B, shoveling driveways, C, bagging groceries, or D, delivering newspapers?
If I had to guess of any of those, with as much emphasis as this movie puts on mowing lawns, I'm going to go with mowing lawns.
Oh man, you got it.
Yay.
Not a great start for my quiz, it's sounding like. But we'll see if it gets better. So, after the success of Raising Arizona, the Coens found themselves receiving offers to direct a lot of other movies. They turned down one that I thought was notable, just because, it would have been kind of funny if they had made it instead of the person who did make it. And instead they made Miller's Crossing. But you get to guess the movie they didn't make.
Okay.
So, is the movie that they chose not to make A, Misery, B, Kindergarten Cop, C, Batman, or D, Gremlins 2?
My brain is wanting to either say Misery or Kindergarten Cop. I don't know the dates of when any of those movies came out, so I'm just like...
They're all around the same era. I looked for movies that were coming out at that same time. So.
Okay, so I can't use that as a thing.
It won't help you, yeah.
I'm going to go with Kindergarten Cop.
Oh, I'm afraid it was Batman.
Oh, okay.
It ended up being directed by Tim Burton instead. But I feel like a Coen-directed Batman would have been pretty weird.
Maybe.
I actually think they could have done a great job with Misery, but I don't think
I think they could have too. Honestly, I think they could still do actually a good job with Batman.
Yeah?
With as much as comics have grown and matured, and it's not just all about dudes in spandex punching almost homeless people, I think they could handle doing a narrative about the sort of tortured psyche it takes to be Batman.
I would definitely watch it.
I would too.
All right, question number 3. So the Coens have been known to intentionally lie to their audience in order to maintain a level of mystery or to help set a tone or just because they think it's funny. One of their most infamous lies revolves around a movie which begins with the line, "This is a true story. The events depicted in this film took place in blank in blank." So
that's Fargo?
Yeah, you got my question. All right. You got that one. Yeah.
I've seen basically every Coen Brothers film.
Okay.
I've also seen this one before.
Oh, really?
I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to make you not feel like I'm just guessing these things super easy, because I'm the best at quizzes. I'm not.
You always do pretty well.
No, there have definitely been times where I've been full wiped or I get one.
All right. So, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The Coens' ninth feature film is famously a loose adaptation of the Odyssey, but the Coens have discussed it as a loose adaptation of one other story as well, and you get to guess what that other story was. So, is it A, The Wizard of Oz, B, The Canterbury Tales, C, The Dark Crystal, or D, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland?
Well, I don't think it's. I don't know enough about the Dark Crystal, like the weird Muppet film by Henson.
Yeah.
Oh, do you not think I would know that?
No, I thought you would know it.
Is it because it was? Is the version that Henson made based on something, or was that just an original Henson? Okay, so I'm ruling that one out right away.
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland could maybe work, but a lot of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is like an anthology piece where they're jumping around to a lot of stuff. So Canterbury Tales sounds really good, so I'm gonna go with Canterbury Tales.
It's actually The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they apparently have said before that they feel like a lot of their movies, The Wizard of Oz is a big inspiration for them. I think like the way that The Wizard of Oz subverts authority is something that they're really interested in, and also just like the fact that the book The Wizard of Oz was like really supposed to be a reactionary story about like how terrible a decision it was to go off of the gold standard, and so it's like kind of funny to them that like it's a story that undermines authority, but then also the story itself is ultimately kind of undermined in terms of like what it's trying to say. But yeah. Okay.
Oh, the thing I was going to say is like with the Wizard of Oz one, I couldn't think of anyone in that who would be like analogous to the Cowardly Lion, the Scarecrow, or the Tin Man. When I was trying to think like, oh, so it was like, is one of the brothers Dorothy?
Gotcha.
That was where my headspace was.
It's like rarely ever a 1-to-1, but all right. Last question. The Coen brothers are well known for regularly working with the same crew from one movie to the next. People like storyboard artist J. Todd Anderson, director of photography Roger Deakins, and composer Carter Burwell are like very much regulars on their staff. One of these regularly recurring names is that of editor Roderick Jaynes, and you get to guess one surprising fact about Mr. Jaynes.
Okay.
So, is it A, Roderick Jaynes was awarded knighthood in 2005 for his notable contribution to the world of arts? B, before taking up a career in editing, Jaynes was the host of an unsuccessful MTV prank show called Whooped. C, Roderick Jaynes has no professional training as an editor. He fell into the job by pure luck and made a name for himself. Or D, Roderick Jaynes doesn't actually exist. He's a pen name that the Coens use.
D.
Yeah, it's D.
So I was pretty sure I've heard they edit almost all their own shit.
Yeah.
Because it's whoever really edits the movie is the one who really directs it. So, and they're just good about making sure their vision is through the whole movie.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I got 3 out of 5.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad for a quiz that you had no way of studying for in any way, shape, or form.
Yay! All right, are we ready to start diving into this?
I think so.
All right, well, I'll be up here on the TV aerial.
All right, perfect.
Is this the first time? I'm sure this isn't the first time you've seen this movie.
No, it was.
Oh, it was? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to watch this, and saying this plays well into one preface that I wanted to give, because the podcast Coen Brothers Michael Swaim says that he thinks this is the best Coen Brothers movie. So
Wait, Michael
I wanted
Swaim
to
is
check
on
it out.
Coen Brothers?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad
it's
he's
re-
still
like-
doing stuff.
Yeah. Because he had, before Coen Brothers had done a podcast called Kurt Vonnegut, where they went through all of the Kurt Vonnegut books, like in order that they were made, and then they wanted to do another thing like that. So a podcast where they looked at every Coen Brothers movie in the order that it was made.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's turned out like it's a really cool format because it gives you like a really interesting look into kind of like the whole body of work of an artist. But yeah, I love Michael Swaim a lot.
I remember when he made fart jokes on cracked.com.
Yeah. Yep, he did do that. He still makes fart jokes. He's pretty fun.
Nice.
But anyway,
we'll get him on here sometime.
That would be that like, I'm not even kidding. I think if I could meet any celebrity, like any famous person, it might be Michael Swaim.
I'll let him know. I'll hit him up on Twitter.
Yeah. Perfect. But yeah, so like I did want to say like a lot of the way that I look at this movie comes from hearing that discussion. So if you're watching the VOD of this later on YouTube or whatever, and you want to know more about the Coen Brothers, definitely check out the podcast Coen Brothers.
Okie doke.
Yep.
Man, we're shilling so hard with no payback.
That's all right. I don't mind chilling for good things.
Well, this was also my first time watching the movie, and I definitely believe the Coen Brothers are. Oh, whoa! Everything just on my screen just went black for a second. Building suspense. I think the Coen Brothers are very good at what they do. Like, this was a very well-made movie.
Yeah.
But I didn't enjoy watching it.
That's fair.
Movie didn't say anything to me that I didn't already know and feel in my real life, and it didn't make me feel good. It just was an hour and 45 minutes of, oh man, this is a bummer, like real life, and then it ended on a bummer, like real life, and I was just like, I'm okay. That's time I'm never going to get back.
That's fair. I guess I don't know. I kind of really like it when a movie feels to me like it's echoing something from real life, even if it's super a bummer. But yeah, I know. So yeah, I guess I really loved this movie. That doesn't surprise me that you were not quite as enamored with it as I am. But I know last week you'd said we might want to start doing synopses of movies before.
Yes, I was actually going to ask if you want to give a. What I'm trying. Since we're going to be experimenting with it, I'm not sure what a good, because I want it to be short enough that you really need to hustle and skim in a goofy way, but not long enough that you actually can give like a full good one. So, you know what? Let's start with 30 seconds. So, I'm going to get my stopwatch ready. Oh God, where's my stopwatch? There we go. Boom. And you have 30 seconds to give as much plot synopsis as you can. So here we go in 3, 2, 1. Synopsis!
Okay. A serious man follows the story of Larry, I can't remember his last name, who is a Jewish physics professor in 1967. His life is sort of falling apart, like his wife is preparing to divorce him. She wants to leave him for another man. He's not sure if he's going to get tenure. He's struggling because a student has bribed him and he doesn't know what to do about it. And there's just like all of these things that keep happening to him one after another after another.
And to know the rest, you got to watch the movie. That was 30 seconds.
Oh, man.
But yeah, give the real synopsis. But yeah, 30 seconds is not a lot of time. You got to push it.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
So yeah, I mean, you hadn't told me before this. I had to really have it down to 30 seconds, but I could have written something.
Okay, well next time also 30 seconds. So
yeah.
Yes.
Lawrence Gopnik. Thank you, William. But yeah, so he goes looking for answers and is never really able to find them, and that's kind of what the movie is about.
Yeah, and there's a big emphasis on sort of like Jewish religion and culture going through
Yes.
this, which I am, from what I understand, and I hope it doesn't come back that I'm wrong, and I've been leaning really hard into this pseudo-Jewish character that I've been portraying on the internet, that I didn't grow up with that. Like, I didn't learn that we had any amount until, like, way later in my life. So I can't say, like, because Will jokingly asked me a couple times, like, was this what it was like for you? And I was like, no. I had different terrible religious-based experiences. But there's a lot of Yiddish in this movie that you kind of, they don't ever like explain any of it except for the one term, which was like Olam Baha. I think that's what it was.
I don't remember that one. What does that mean?
It's the one that means it's a type of afterlife where it's being held to the bosom of Abraham rather than like paradise necessarily, which made it sound like a positive version of like purgatory. But like stuff like Hashem and which I'm assuming is another way of saying God, which I'm confused because I thought Yahweh.
It's specifically like God's influence in your life.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Stuff like that. And I will say this movie bummed me out because the opening to the movie was very intriguing.
Yeah.
I really liked...
It is like a really... I'd so watch a full-length movie of that opening short.
I probably would, but I liked it more as an opening short that was confusing. I just expected it to come back. And something about how that opening was would then play into like maybe how the movie's ending.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I think it kind of does in a way, like at least thematically.
I mean, like directly. That's what I meant. Like where like it would go back and you would see whether or not, because how the movie opens, it's very interesting because it's taking place sometime. I'm assuming like what century was that?
I don't know. Back when
like
people like did not have electricity, and you hauled geese to town in a cart to sell them.
Maybe like the 1800s. I don't know. Time before the internet was all horrific, and no one should have had to live through it. But
your only horrors came from real life.
But yeah, basically it's this weird but like possibly magical realism thing where this like couple's talking and the father's talking about how like he had this run-in with this person and it was great, and then the wife is like, actually that was a weird possible demon from Yiddish folklore. I don't know what a
Dybbuk.
What, I'm sure you looked what that up is. What? Wow, my words just shitted out of my mouth.
I mean, I think it's just kind of like a loose spirit that comes from like the body of a dying person that wasn't properly attended to.
Oh, okay.
So like when she talks about how one of his cheeks was shaved and the other wasn't, it's because the person who was supposed to be sitting Shiva with the body left partway through that ceremony and then came back, and that's when the evil one got in and turned him into a Dybbuk, which is like not necessarily an evil spirit so much as an ill-omened spirit.
Gotcha. But anyway, she's like, no, you talk to a spirit, and then that dude shows up at their house, and there's this weird tension where the guy's being, like, weirdly friendly, the guy who might be a Dybbuk, and the husband's like, oh, this is weird, and the wife's like, you're a demon. And it just basically all boils up to this point where he's acting suspicious enough that she just stabs him with an ice pick. But it doesn't kill him, and at first it doesn't even seem to bother him. And they're like, haha, see, he's a demon. But then, like, he starts bleeding, and then he just gets up and very politely excuses himself and walks out into the snow. And the husband's like, he's gonna die, and we're gonna get fucked. And then the wife's like, nope, it was a demon. And then then it just cuts to the 1960s, and I was just like, oh shit, is that old man gonna show up later? I really thought the weird old priest they kept building up was going to be the Dybbuk through this movie.
Yeah, the Coens said that they made that short really just to like get the audience in the right frame of mind for the movie. So yeah, I think is at least like in terms of the story, it's not related to the main story of the movie.
That's unfortunate. But well, you know what? Since this is more your jam, I'll let you take it away, talking about whatever you want, and I'll just chime in.
Okay, so I guess like I think where I want to start is the idea that this movie is kind of an adaptation of the Book of Job from an existentialist perspective. Where like it's a story about a man who's having all of these terrible things happen to him, and he's trying to understand like, why is all of this suffering happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? But unlike the Book of Job, where it's a test, here the answer is because the universe is chaos and you can't depend on, you can't depend on being good resulting in good for you or being bad resulting in bad for you. Like, things just happen. And so a lot of the advice that he gets in the movie, I think, is genuinely good advice, but it's all advice that has to do with basically accepting that you can never understand why these things are happening, and instead kind of shifting your perspective to just appreciate the fact that you have a life and to see the beauty that is there, when you can. And like, I think it's just a movie that really cleverly explores those ideas and explores ideas that are kind of tangentially related to them.
It's very interesting. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like, what I took away from what would be the message of this movie, and this may speak more to my dark, sad personality than anything else, is almost kind of, especially with how the movie ends, which I put spoilers are allowed, so we're going to talk about the ending. As being the message is, stop whining about how bad things are because they can always get worse. Is like, I would say in like traditional Hollywood sense, a movie like this would eventually end with him overcoming whatever issue is, either if like he just learns to deal with it and be happy, or like in the story of Job, everything turns around and his blessings multiply and whatever. Because like as the movie's going on and his like marriage with his wife has collapsed and all of this stuff, and like, it's not sure whether or not he's going to get tenure. As the movie starting to wrap up, when he's at his kid's bar mitzvah, his wife sort of like touches him in a way, and they're like, hey, everything's okay. So it's like, oh man, their marriage could start getting patched up. Then the dude who's like the tenure committee guy is like, hey, I'm not saying anything's official, but you're going to like it. So there's that sort of, it's starting to bend back up to kind of trick you. And then it ends with Lawrence possibly getting some form of a bone cancer disease because of the bad x-rays, and then basically everyone in that school getting murdered by a tornado.
But the movie also doesn't tell you that that's necessarily... It just implies that those are probable outcomes. Like, he gets a phone call from his doctor, but you don't know for sure what the results are. It's just heavily implied because of the way his doctor talks to him that he has something terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And the same, like, with the tornado, the final shot of the movie is his son, Danny, outside, and he's looking down the road at this oncoming tornado, and then it's just cut to credits. So, like, you don't get to know. And I think the movie, that kind of uncertainty is one of the biggest themes in this movie. So it makes sense to me that it ends on that note of uncertainty. Like, the first lesson that you see Lawrence talking about in his class is Schrodinger's cat, where, like, you're familiar with that, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, like, the whole idea is that the cat's in the box, and it could be, I guess for people who don't know, there's a cat in a box and you can't see inside the box, and there's a 50% chance that some sort of device inside the box has killed the box. But from the perspective of
Or killed the
outside,
cat.
yeah. From the perspective of someone outside of the box, you have to consider the cat as being simultaneously dead and alive from like a quantum perspective until you open the box and collapse the quantum waveform, which like I don't understand any of this at all, but that's just like what that thought experiment is about. And like I think there's a lot about this movie that's playing with similar kinds of uncertainty where things are one way but they're also another way. Like he's in the process of getting a divorce from his wife, so like he's in a relationship with her but he's also not in a relationship with her. Or like what are some of the other ones I wrote down here? Things like the he at an early point in the movie, he has a South Korean student named Clive who's unhappy with his test results, and Clive tries to bribe him by leaving an envelope full of money on his desk. But Clive doesn't say anything to him about the bribe. He's just assuming that's where the money came from. And so, like, that money is also in this weird state of flux where it's like, it's not a bribe until he takes the money, but it also, if he takes the money, then it has always been a bribe. You know, like there's just all of these weird places where things are one thing and they're also another thing, because like I think that's another thing that they're trying to add on to the levels of how uncertain that world feels, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't think about that at all. But that is pretty cool. Do you, this kind of, I don't know if we're getting off or on track, do you know if the title of the movie, like, means anything?
I do actually.
There we
And
go.
so let me see. I wrote down. So the title of the movie actually comes from a book written by Simone de Beauvoir. The book is called The Ethics of Ambiguity. And the book is sort of a response to Jean-Paul Sartre's writings. And like what the book is exploring is the idea that if you accept an existentialist outlook on the world, then it becomes really hard to develop a system of ethics that you can use, because like ultimately nothing means anything, you know. And so like Simone de Beauvoir uses the term a serious man to refer to the kind of person who latches onto one system of ethics and declares that system to be like a true system. So like the movie that, or the system that this movie is looking the most closely at would of course be like traditional Jewish beliefs. Um, so things like the character Sai, who, you know, wants not only for Sai is the person who Lawrence's wife wants to leave him for, and Sai wants Lawrence's wife to get a get, which is like a ritualistic divorce, so that they can be remarried within the Jewish faith. So Sai is a serious man because he takes seriously the like claims in traditional Judaism that it's important to get a get. But I think like part of the perspective of the movie is that that system of ethics may be helpful to you in like getting through your day-to-day life, but you also have to be able to take a step back and understand that it's possible for the universe to sweep the rug out from you, and everything that you thought was true before isn't necessarily true. And like Sai dies pretty abruptly partway through the movie, but like, you know, there's nothing in that universe that's preventing or that's making it necessarily true that his belief systems are correct, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've just rambled a lot here. It's a lot of confusing ideas to try and explain, but I think I don't just like the basic idea though is just that um, for the main character, he's a person who thought that all of his life was one particular way, and like you kind of get the feeling with him that he really hadn't ever stopped to question a lot of what was in his life. You know, like when his wife first brings up to him that she wants a divorce, like all he can say is like, I haven't done anything, you know, like what have I done? Because he had this thing in his life that he was taking seriously, but also hadn't really taken the time to examine, and that just gets like the universe pulls the rug out from under him. And I think it does that to him a lot throughout this movie, where he thinks things are one way and then they're not, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, let's say, was it implying in the movie that Arthur was gay?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is like, so Arthur is his brother who lives with him, and is kind of socially inept, but it's implied that he's mathematically very advanced. And like, there's a lot about, I can't remember the name of the guy who played him, but in one of the like special features on the DVD, he talks about the character of Arthur and like how much of his life is relevant to the plot of the movie, but also you never actually see those parts of his life. So like the fact that Arthur has been gambling, but also the fact that Arthur is gay is something that like it had never even occurred to Larry that his brother might be gay. And so when his brother shows up at the house with two police officers who've arrested him for soliciting prostitution, like that completely catches him off guard, which is like another level of complexity in the universe getting thrown at you, and like things that you hadn't even thought to question not being the way that you thought they were, because like it had never occurred to him that his brother was gay and would be, you know, like going to the Dakota to solicit prostitutes. But
One thing that kind of bugged me about Arthur's character was the fact that he had such an intense sebaceous cyst that he had to drain it basically every day. And I'm like, at that level, I'm pretty sure they would remove it. Just going in there.
yeah, I don't know. One funny thing that the actor pointed out about his cyst though is that like that's another thing that is like regularly in the movie he's draining it and it's like affecting other characters, but you never actually see it on camera. It's just like kind of implied to you that it exists. I mean, you're told that it exists, but
I was definitely waiting for some gross out scene where something happens and either like the daughter freaks out and yanks out the draining apparatus while it's in the middle of draining or something.
yeah.
It felt like Chekhov's cyst. For as much as it was brought up, we never really got to see anything.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. I mean, I guess with like, I don't know anything about cysts, but also like their money situation is very bad. So maybe it's just a thing where like whatever you have to do to get it removed is something they can't afford.
I mean, getting rid of a cyst isn't super difficult. You have Hulu, right? You can watch Dr. Pimple Popper as much as you want. She'll remove cysts.
I don't want to watch that.
That's
But
understandable.
thank you for the offer.
Yeah, they
I'm
basically
glad
just,
it's there for people who do want to watch it.
you just kind of cut down a little bit and then you just pull out the pocket and snip it. It was something that's like, it's something that's, at least, I don't know how in the 60s medicine worked. They probably, I don't know, still used leeches. That you can do it relatively quickly too. Then I'm just like, why would he choose to live with that? Because he clearly had to buy that machine to suck it out. And I'm like, that had to be hundreds of dollars, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just a weird thing that I expected to do more of, and I'm sure there's some metaphor to it that I was just too annoyed with the movie to really sink into.
It could be, yeah. I guess it hadn't even occurred to me that he would get it removed. But
The only thing I could think of what it is that there's always a stereotype of like how Jewish people just feel this constant sense of like persecution and dealing with these burdens that they have. And Arthur literally has one, he like this really annoying medical condition he has to deal with every day.
Yeah.
So I was just like, is that supposed to be a physical manifestation of that weird complex? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about Lawrence's dreams, or is there anything really worth talking about
sure.
there?
I mean, there certainly may be some. Did you have like particular ones you were interested in talking about?
Because he has. Does he have more than two? The only thing I think of two is when he explodes awake after having two different nightmares.
I feel like there was a third. So there's the one where he dreams about sending his brother away to Canada to start a new life.
Mm-hmm.
There's the one where he dreams that he's sleeping with the next door neighbor, but then like Psy cuts in right at the end of the dream. But then I think there's a third also, because there's a dream where he's giving a lecture on the uncertainty principle.
Oh, and Psy shows up.
And then his class leaves and Psy shows up and talks with him. Yeah.
Well, I thought he was sleeping with the neighbor lady. Like, that was actually happening.
No, that was just a dream. The only thing that he actually does with the neighbor lady is that one time that he goes over and smokes weed with her.
Oh, okay. My brain just kind of pushed those two together. It's like he comes running out of the house after smoking weed, and that's when he learns his brother is gay. And I was like, oh, that would be a weird thing to happen while you're high, and you're like, wait a minute, my brother's...
Maybe for the first time ever.
Because I've indulged in nature's gifts, but I've never had that experience where I'm just sitting there and staring at the bottom of a cup. But I guess they also didn't have internet, so I don't know. I've never cosmically egg-crated before.
Yeah, I got the impression that they were, like, astoundingly high, too. Because it's not just the cup, like, whatever record they have been listening to has stopped, and they're just, like, listening to the record player skip.
That's true.
There's kind of an interesting thing about the high scenes in this movie, which is they're shot with a special device called a deaconizer, which was invented by Roger Deakins, who is the director of photography that the Coens like to use. So it's like a special lens that uses multiple lenses, and it allows you to like make the way that things focus on the camera just like really weird. So I don't know, fun fact about how they shot the high scenes.
Nice. But one thing I was actually wondering, because like they set the precedent that when bad or crazy things happen in that movie, like it's not uncommon for then it to cut back that it's all a dream in Lawrence's head. I was wondering if, like, when he was like, you might come in for x-rays, and then the tornado happening, if it was then going to cut to him waking up, and the movie was going to end.
That could be. I mean, like, that would, like, the fact that we don't know is, again, like, just another level of uncertainty. Yeah, like I really don't have an answer beyond that.
Yeah, like it wasn't a thing to be like, tell me the answer. It's just something I was thinking about, like when the tornado was dropping, because it was dropping really close, and also in Minnesota, where have you guys had any tornadoes since you've lived up there?
Not that I can recall, but they do happen occasionally, and I know that there was actually like a string of tornadoes in 1967.
Oh, okay. Is that, to me, it felt almost like unnaturally weird, because it was just dropping down like right next to them, that I'm like, okay, this is like when him and his brother were getting shot at by his potentially anti-Semitic neighbor. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was just
it does feel like supernatural when the tornado shows up. But yeah, we don't have enough information to know.
Let's see, what else? Well, actually, yeah, what else do you have to say about the movie?
So one thing that I think is, or that I like about this movie, is the way that like some of the things in this movie that I think are like genuine pieces of wisdom are often like delivered in kind of odd ways that you wouldn't expect. So like the one that really stands out to me is that so there's three rabbis that Larry wants to, or rabbis that Larry meets with or attempts to meet with in the course of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is Marshak, who Larry himself doesn't get to see, but he's considered to be like the wisest and most venerable of all of the rabbis. But the person who does get to meet Marshak is Larry's son, Danny. And at the start of the movie, Danny is in class and he's listening to a tape player of Jefferson Airship songs.
Was it an airplane?
And it gets Jefferson Airplane, yeah. And it gets confiscated from him. And when Danny gets to go and see Marshak after his bar mitzvah, he's, you know, like sitting in front of this guy who's supposed to be like the wisest guy, and who, you know, like his father was desperate to see but couldn't see. And Marshak just starts misquoting to him the lyrics of the Jefferson Airplane song. But like, I think one thing that's interesting about the movie is that that song is given a kind of like weird relevance and wisdom within context, where it's like the lyrics are, when the truth is found to be lies and all the hope within you dies, don't you want somebody to love? Where like that's one of the messages that the movie is giving you, is like, you can question all you want, like, why do things happen, or what does it mean that this happened this way, but really what is much more likely to make you happy is just to like find someone to love, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. Or even like characters who are arguably antagonistic in the movie, like Sai, can offer advice that I think is good advice, kind of unintentionally, like when he gives Larry the bottle of wine and he says, letting it breathe, so important, you know. And he's like talking about the wine, but at the same time, that's a thing that you can read into your own life, of like letting things breathe and taking some time to just be mindful and peaceful and not rush is a thing that can make you happier on a day-to-day basis. But...
That's good.
What else?
What else, indeed?
Were there any moments that made you laugh in this movie?
Yeah, there was definitely parts that made me like chuckle, but I didn't laugh at anything out loud. But there was also like, with almost all those moments that were funny, they were like tragically funny.
Yeah.
Which was another thing about this movie, is that it was just a downer the whole time.
Yeah.
Whole time. So that was one of the reasons why I was just like, okay. But like when he's talking to the lawyer and then his like son calls and he's like, oh God, what else horribly could go wrong? And then his kid's like, the TV's still dumb, and he's just like quiet.
Yeah.
That, and then...
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. That one, and then the line that's above your head, which I'm sure you have something to talk about with that, but the conversation with Clive's dad playing into, like, broken, idiomatic, like English, where he's just like, it either is or it isn't, and, like, you're bribing me, or what are you doing? And then the dad just going, please, accept the mystery. And you're just like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I guess, like, I picked that line because I, like, I mean, it's one they talked about in the podcast too, but it's just like a really great encapsulation of a lot of the bigger themes of the movie, where it's like what the actual nature of what's going on, what the reasons are that things happen. These are all mysterious. Accept them and like focus on the things that can make you happy instead. But um, but yeah, like that's definitely a funny scene too. It's like another weird thing that happens in that scene is that his neighbor, who we're at least led to think is probably racist, comes up and asks, "Is this man bothering you?" But like the way that it's framed, it actually looks like he's asking Mr. Park if Larry is bothering him, even though Larry is the one who responds, "No, he's not bothering me." It's just like kind of a funny thought, like who is the racist neighbor asking that to?
How I interpreted that scene, because I didn't suspect that he was racist until after Larry has the weird Jew shooting dream. But then I had to like think about it later. Because I immediately, when he says, "This man bothering you," knew that he was referencing Park, like, "Is Park bothering you?" So my guess was that he might be anti-Semitic, but more than being anti-Semitic, he's anti-white, not white people. So he'll back up Mr. Gopnik as long as they're sticking it to the Koreans. And I was just like, oh. But then it could have also just been a scene where it's like, it turns out this guy who's just grumpy and weird is actually looking out for his neighbor. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, that's another uncertainty that the movie gives you, is the only time that you see that character doing something overtly racist is in a dream. So, like, it's not real, and all you have to go on in terms of whether he actually is or not are these kind of like weird exchanges that he has with Larry.
I also never heard the term, was it GOP, or what was it? The term for Gentile people in this, like when they're
Goy?
Goy, yeah, I haven't heard. I never heard
or Goyim. You've never heard that before?
I've heard Goyim. Now that as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, but I haven't heard it shortened to Goy.
Like, I think a group of Goy is a Goyim. I could be wrong on that, or just like the general group of all Goys are a Goyim. I don't know the intricacies of it, but
that the teeth scene, the Goy's teeth, that was interesting, and it did the thing that you've been talking about, where it just goes fuck it. Like the end of the story isn't important; it's the getting there part, and that was also annoying.
Well, it reminded me, like, that story of the Goy's teeth reminded me a lot of like a Buddhist koan, if you're familiar with like what koans are at all. Koan is a story where the moral of the story is that you're not supposed to be able to understand the story. So like when I took Eastern philosophy, the koan that we were taught in that class was about a master swordsman, and he would teach a class with like a bunch of other students in it. And one of the things that the master swordsman would do is stand in front of his students and point at them and look them in the eyes. And one day, one of the master swordsman students decided that when the master pointed at him, he would point back at the master. And when he does that, the master whips out a sword and cuts the guy's hand off. And the guy runs screaming out into the street. And the swordsman goes over to the window and like slams it open, and it gets the guy's attention, and he looks over and the master points at him. And in that moment, the man whose hand had been cut off reached enlightenment. So like the whole reason that you tell that story is to like transmit to students of Buddhism the idea that like you can't understand that story, and the way that you reach enlightenment is by stop trying to understand it, I guess. But I don't know, like it felt very similar to that to me, but this time like a Jewish version.
Okay.
I'm sorry you had to sit through Robert's cone reading for the week.
No, like that was you did a very good one, but I'm just like, oh my god, I'm glad I didn't take that class.
I loved that class.
I imagine you did. I super imagine you did.
The professor who taught that class looked and spoke exactly like the character Jane from Firefly, which was pretty funny. But he was also really smart.
Okie doke.
Fun little side note.
I don't know who that character is, so I'll just go sure.
Oh, did you never watch Firefly?
Nope.
Oh, weird. All right.
I mean, a lot of people haven't seen Firefly.
I guess that's true.
And
I
I'm
don't know. It
also
seems
not
like
into
a
science
seminal enough
fiction.
nerd thing that you might have seen it, but
I'm honestly not that much into nerd things. I don't really
All right.
like fantasy or sci-fi.
fair enough. Fair enough.
It's all about fast cars and big booties for me. You know me.
I do know you.
I'm out there throwing the pigskins, scoring those 3-point home runs. Sports ball.
I feel like you're fucking with me a little here.
Oh, I'm not even fucking with you. I'm just being wrong.
Yeah.
No, then I'm all in for video games. If there was a Firefly video game that was really popular, I would have played it, but nah.
Fair enough.
Nathan Fillion fighting Reavers, that's all I know. And that the guy who was their captain was not captain, their pilot was Alan Tudyk.
That is true.
That's all I really know.
Well, that's fine. I think I don't know, it's a fun show, but it probably hasn't aged super well would be my guess.
But what else? What else do you have for this movie, my dude?
I mean, I feel like we've talked about most of the big things that I had to say. There are certainly like other things that I think are maybe interesting to talk about, but I feel like they all are kind of will draw back to things that we've already discussed, you know. Like, you know, you can talk about other uncertainties, like who was writing the disparaging letters about Larry to the tenure committee. Was the person writing them Psy? All of those questions remain unanswered, more uncertainty. But also, like, those letters having another Schrodinger's cat paradox where, like, Larry gets told about them by the person on the tenure committee because he's like, we got these letters, they're anonymous, so we're going to discount them completely. But at the same time, like, you have to understand what he's understanding, which is the mere fact that the letters exist means that they will have an impact. So, like, those are another thing in a weird state of existing and not existing, of playing a role and not playing a role, you know. But, like, just all of those things that keep doing that in the movie.
I couldn't really see where the Columbia Record Club really played into the overarching themes of the film.
Well, so the Columbia Record Club actually does set up something kind of funny, which is, if you remember the scene where the man explains to him that he received the album Santana Abraxas, and Larry's like, I don't know what Abraxas is, I don't want Abraxas, I haven't listened to Abraxas, stop talking to me about Abraxas. Well, Abraxas, as it turns out, is the Gnostic word for, like, the highest version of God in the Gnostic tradition, which, like, it's widely believed that the Abrahamic traditions were pulled from the Gnostic tradition. So, like, maybe it's just a weird joke that you have to do a lot of research to understand that the Columbia Record Club is setting up, where, like, Larry has spent the whole movie saying, I want God, I want to understand why God is doing this to me, and then at the same time he's, like, yelling at this guy, I don't know what Abraxas is, I don't want Abraxas. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. it could also just be one more tribulation that's getting dumped on his plate.
Oh,
There certainly are like elements to it that are uncertain. You know, like it's heavily implied that Danny is the one who subscribed to the Columbia Record Club, but Danny never says it for certain, so it remains a little bit mysterious. And then there's also things with the Columbia Record Club where like the guy from the club is basically saying like, you didn't do anything, that's what you do in order to sign up for the main selection, you know. So it's just like weird things where, you know, like the whole movie Larry's saying, I didn't do anything, why is this happening to me? And then here's like another echo of that where the guy is saying, you didn't do anything, that's why you're getting this, you know.
gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. That, and then another thing I felt like, oh, they're trying to put some meaning behind it, is the motel that he stays at, the Jolly Roger. They just keep bringing up they don't ever refer to it as a motel or the motel. They always say the Jolly Roger. And I was just like, that seems weird that they came up with this name, which to be honest isn't a super original name, where it's like, oh, we want to keep putting it in because look how clever we are. And it's always referred to by the proper noun rather than the motel.
Yeah. So I don't know for sure. If I was to take a guess, though, my guess would be that it's an actual motel chain that was in the area, because like a lot of the businesses that they mentioned, because the Coens grew up in Minnesota, like the Red Owl Grocery is a real grocery chain. Amber's, the restaurant that they go to with Cy and Larry's wife, is an actual restaurant chain. So, like, that's my best guess, is that maybe the Jolly Roger was an actual motel that was in that area. But I don't know for sure.
There is Jolly Roger Motel is a thing.
So
there we
that
go.
could well be it then. It's more of a Minnesota reference than a philosophical reference.
Never mind then. Okay.
Is like, I think that's like, this definitely, I don't think that this is an autobiographical movie, but I do think part of what's going on in this movie is that it's a reflection of the kind of world that the Coens grew up in, because like they were kids in this era living in Minnesota where the movie is set and growing up in a Jewish tradition. So like that's part of what the movie's about, you know. Is just like a reflection of that world. I guess there was one like big scene that I think might be worth talking about, which is the bar mitzvah scene, where Danny shows up at his bar mitzvah and he's like high at the bar mitzvah. I thought that was, it's like an interesting scene, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's just, I don't know if it relates back thematically as much, but it's just like a scene that stands out in my mind as being interesting. Partially just because like I've never been bar mitzvahed, but the idea of like doing anything publicly like that, but especially a coming of age ceremony while you're high, is just like nightmarishly terrifying.
Yep.
And like, I felt like the Coens did a really good job in that scene of playing with some of that, you know, the way that like when he goes up to do the reading and the rabbis have that big, like, it's not a pen, I don't know what that thing is called, but
I think it's called a stylus.
Okay, so yeah, the stylus that you're supposed to pull over the text, and you know, like the rabbi pulls it down to where he's supposed to start, and you just hear like the grinding sound of it, you know, which is like clearly emphasized because of the fact that he's high, or just like the shots of the audience with the deaconizer over them so that they're like swimming in and out in weird ways.
I think that was actually the only point in the movie where I think I did audibly chuckle, because it was purely funny without there being like a sinister undertone, is when he's high and he sees his parents and he's like, I imagine him being like, "Oh no, I'm high," and then he looks over and sees his friend who is also high, and his friend is
Yeah.
like, I was like, "Ha!" That made me chuckle.
Yeah. I think that scene has a really sweet moment too, though. That kind of like moment between Larry and his wife,
Yeah, that's
where like, yeah,
that's why I was saying like it feels like it's warming you up for like the comeback kid moment of everything's gonna be okay, and it's like, "Fuck you, bone
yeah,
disease kid, wind murder," and I was just like, "Ah, Cohen's." All of your movies
you
end
got
on
me
downer
again.
notes, except for Raising Arizona, that I can remember.
Hmm.
I really like Raising Arizona was such a weird introduction to the Coen brothers because
Yeah,
that was like a fun, goofy movie, and then all the other movies I've seen by them have been like weird, nihilistic, or existential like reflections of you know what, fuck you, the bad
I
guy
think
often wins.
Oh Brother has a happy ending.
Does it? Oh yeah, maybe it does.
Yeah,
Oh shit, then that would be my
I mean
introduction. I
it's
saw
like,
that before Raising
yeah,
Arizona.
it's like a little bit of a slide whistle, but I don't know, like it's a because it's like he reunites with his wife and they're hauling all the kids around, but his wife's like, "You got to get me the real ring out of the bottom of the lake."
Yeah, because that's what I remember it ending on a note where it's not a happy ending where he's just like, oh shit. And it's like, that's the end. But yeah,
But yeah, I think that's like more of a goofy oh shit than it is
mm,
a
like legitimate
existential.
one.
Yeah,
That's a good movie. I
that
don't
is a
want to
good
watch it
movie.
again
I
for the
really love that
podcast, but
one.
it is good. I think I'm fine with not watching another Coen's Brothers movie for this podcast.
You know, I was really surprised when you said yes to this one because my recollection was that when we watched The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, you were like, "I think I'm done with Cohen movies."
I mean, I just said yes because this is your thing. So if you want to do something, I'm normally down unless it's like, hey, CJ, do you want to watch a Serbian film? And I'm like, no.
I don't want to watch that either, so I think you're safe.
Good. I don't
Um,
regret watching this movie. It's just one I have no plans to ever watch again, and
hmm,
it didn't inspire me or challenge me to think differently. So it was just to me, and since it didn't have like the raw entertainment factor of say like a Marvel film that I'm
yeah.
watching just for spectacle and explosions, it didn't hit any of those three buttons. So to me, I was like,
Hmm.
okay, this was kind of a waste of time when I could have been making progress in a game I really like or writing a book or something. So that's my main thing. But I could definitely see Michael Swaim liking this movie because it does a lot, and even talking with you
Yeah.
about the whole interlocking. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. Interlocking of uncertainty. I'm like, that's really cool and a clever way to build the movie. But this isn't like Spawn, where I'm like, Spawn was bad because it was boring and didn't do anything. This for me was just not a movie. I'm not the target audience for this movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, I definitely don't think that this is a movie who I that I would recommend to like everyone go and watch. But I think if the themes of the movie are something that you're interested in, then like I can't recommend it enough. So
Hey, Jervik. I like my movies big and I like them dumb.
this is probably not the one. I like some big dumb movies too, but this is, I would say, a very contained, very
High
smart,
concept
very
movie.
depressing movie. Yeah,
But don't worry, we'll be talking about big dumb movies very likely in a couple of minutes.
that's true.
Um, so do you have anything else you want to talk about in this movie, or ready to move on to the final bit?
I mean, we got a couple trivia fun facts we can
Oh,
talk about,
yeah. It's a dude standing on his roof, frustrated with his children and non-functioning cable antenna.
which is another like metaphor for the movie, but I won't go into that. I feel like I've rambled plenty this episode. Um, so, one fun fact: the kids who ride the school bus with Danny all have the same names as the Cohen's own childhood friends.
Oh.
Um, let's see. The Ron Meshbesser is the attorney after Arthur gets arrested, and Larry's talking to his lawyer. Ron Meshbesser is the lawyer who his lawyer recommends. And as it turns out, Ron Meshbesser is also another real world thing from Minnesota, where he was considered like the best criminal attorney in the state.
Oh.
So like something that you wouldn't know as like someone watching the film, and like I didn't either until I read this trivia, but like hearing that name as a signifier to Larry of how big of trouble Arthur is in if he needs the preeminent criminal attorney in the state. One kind of fun fact, Dick Dutton, the guy on the phone from Columbia Records, is played by the actor Warren Keith. And Warren Keith also played a guy on the phone in Fargo, where he's the voice of Riley Diffenbach, who is the finance officer who keeps calling Jerry to like verify the information about the cars in the lot. If you remember that from Fargo.
Do not.
So, yeah, I don't know. Fargo's a great movie, too.
Fargo is really good.
The synagogue that they use in the film is also the one that the Coens grew up going to. So pretty cool. When you see Larry's grade book, like when he goes to change Clive's grave, which is another moment that I found funny because he like gives him a C and then pauses for a couple seconds and then like adds on the minus. But all of the other names in the grade book are the other names of the members of the cast.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then last fun fact is that apparently the scene of the movie where Danny is high and he's meeting Marshak is like the scene that the whole movie kind of came from. Like that was a scene that the Coens had an idea for. And they originally were writing the movie around like making that scene happen and then like building it as sort of a story about a father and a son. But in the writing process, they decided that they were really interested in Larry's story. So that's why like the final product is way more heavily focused on Larry. But it's just sort of interesting to see that like that scene was the seed that the rest of the movie came from.
So are there more facts that aren't fun? You said that was the last fun fact.
Oh. I mean, I probably have more. I had a lot of notes for this movie.
18 cats were killed in the making of this film.
That is not on my list of fun facts. One, like, I did learn a couple of interesting things about the Jewish tradition. For example, if after Danny's bar mitzvah, you remember there's that guy who's like holding the Torah up and then he like stumbles a bit and it's just like Jesus, you know, like under his breath. So that role, the person who lifts up the Torah to display it to the audience, is called the Golal. And at least like this is what they were saying during the making of documentary, is that traditionally, if the Torah is seen to fall during a ceremony like that, everyone who witnesses it is obliged to fast for 30 days. So like when that guy says Jesus under his breath because he like almost slipped, that's because it like really would have been a big deal if it had fallen on the ground and then everyone in there had to fast for 30 days.
I would be pretty pissed.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. My last, I'm going to call it a tangentially related fact. And you know what? I think it's a fun fact, too.
All right.
Is that, and this is something I learned from the podcast, is the word theodicy, which is a term for the, like, paradox of how can good things happen if God is all-powerful and good. Or like how can bad things happen if God is good? There's a term for that paradox, which is theodicy. I just think it's interesting that there's a word for that.
Yep, it's the weird deistic triangle. Is it is impossible for God to be all-knowing, all-loving, and all-powerful. At least by our understanding.
So, do you want to give this movie a rating?
Yeah. I mean, my rating is biased for what I said. This is a movie I enjoyed, but I can definitely see it being good. So I give it a 7. Like,
That's fair.
it's not one I want to watch again,
Yeah.
but I can definitely see the high craft of film in this movie.
Yeah, I think it's a 10 for me. It just like hits on a lot of like philosophical things that I'm really interested in, and I think it's really beautifully shot, really well acted, really well written. Like, I just love this movie. So
Well, that's good. All right. Ready to move on to the next part?
indeed I am.
All right, we're going to talk about what games we think should be made into movies.
That is true.
And do you want to start, Robert?
I can. So I have 3 movies to pitch to you. 2 of them I didn't put an enormous amount of work into, and then one of them I put probably too much work into. So we'll save that one for last.
Okie doke.
Um,
Legend of Zelda? What?
yeah, that'll be my 3rd movie.
Okay.
All right. So my first movie that I wanted to pitch is a live-action Bayonetta movie. You know that I love those games. You're already not interested.
I'm already just seeing all the logistical issues of this movie just flying into my head. As soon as you said live action, I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh,
I
no.
think like all of my movies I was thinking about as being live action.
Just any character action game, because that's what the genre is called. Just with how much insane movement and visuals, I think would just look super goofy. Sorry to immediately start shitting. I'll let you continue. Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's all right. Like, I don't think you can replicate like the way that the action looks in the game, one for one. But I mean, like, there's definitely movies where they do really cool fight sequences, and like, I think the way to do this movie would be to like build the action set pieces around that, but also just like Bayonetta's a goofy, dumb character, but she's also a character who I really like. Like, she's interesting, and I can't think of a lot of other characters who like fill the same kind of role that she does, where like I don't know, she's like a very powerful character, but also is just like willing to be goofy and to like fuck around with other characters and stuff. Which like isn't necessarily the most uniquely written character of all time, but there's just something about the way that she's written that always feels kind of unique and fun to me. I really do think, like, even if it's not exactly the way that the action worked in the games, like, I think you could build some really cool fight sequences with a live action Bayonetta. I think like having some like big dumb CGI angels and demons that she gets to fight would be pretty awesome. And I think that the story from the first game would actually, like, if you cut out a lot of the fat, could make a pretty decent movie story. So
It could.
So yeah, that was my movie pitch number 1.
All right. I guess the first one that I had been thinking about for a while would be a Fallout movie.
Okay.
And I think the reason why is Fallout is a game of many stories, so some of them I think could be strong enough to carry an entire film on its own.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's like that idea of like Star Wars or Star Trek as a place that you can set stories.
Mhm. Exactly. And the way that Fallout, the universe handles the post-apocalypse, I think is very unique. And I haven't seen it in any ones where it's not just a place of dreary misery, horrible murder explosions. there's also a lot of like weirdness and then like odd levity to it that, like, I imagine like shots where it's like people out and about on patrol doing stuff, listening to like 50s music, and then they're like, oh, we gotta go get dinner, and then you see them like scoping up in a gun and they're just like killing giant ants, just but like casually talking to each other about like, man, the vault's been really hot today. And then I don't know, stuff like that. And I think seeing power armor in film could be really cool. I imagine just cool shots of dudes in power armor just fist fighting giant super mutants who have power hammers, and they're just beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know, VATS, I think, is something that could actually work into the movie.
I could see taking the like Fallout World 2 and using it to like do an adaptation of like Seven Samurai.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like, yeah.
The way I had it done is very similar to the third game, where it would be a pair of brothers who, like, one's like, I want to leave the vault and like do military stuff, and the other one's like a weird little introverted computer nerd who's like building an AI, and their father has to leave the vault to do something. Actually, I think the idea was the vault gets attacked and the father gets taken hostage by like the Cluen of like whatever the Enclave might be in this movie. And then the brothers pair up to leave the vault and get their dad back. And they fall in with like goofy raiders who are like, we're just here to fuck around and party, and then they're all like, they basically be like the wildlings from Game of Thrones after Jon has befriended them. Spoilers for Game of Thrones. I just want the guy who played Tormund Giantsbane just to be in this movie as a raider wearing like hubcaps over his nipples.
Yeah, I'd be
I fucked a Yao guy once. Be like, oh, that's weird.
Did you have actors who you wanted for this movie?
I want Liam Neeson to be the dad again, but actually just be in the movie more.
Yeah.
Tormund to be in it. Everyone else, I don't know. Didn't really think about it that
Fair
much.
enough.
Because it's a movie that has been trying to be made so many times, and then it just keeps getting pushed into development hell and then into limbo. Because I forget what company, I think it was 20th Century Fox, owned the movie rights, but now Disney owns 20th Century Fox. So I don't know what's going to happen with any of that. But that's my pitch.
All right. I'd greenlight it.
Nice. What's your next one?
All right. So my next one is a Japanese horror film adaptation of the Fatal Frame games.
I was like, there actually is already a movie of that, and it's horrible.
Oh, there is?
Yes.
Well, my pitch is for a better one.
Nice. At least I'm almost positive there was one. It's like Yui Bowl levels of shitty, though.
Oh, man. That's some shit right there.
Because I think it could, like, the name actually... What's the Fatal Frame series actually called in Japan? Isn't it called, like, Project Zero or something?
I don't know.
Fatal Frame...
Could be.
Yeah, Zero. It's
Okay.
Project Zero, that's what it is. I think there's a Project Zero movie. But sorry to interrupt you again.
No, that's all right.
Yep, Fatal Frame came out in 2014. Yeah.
And was not great, apparently.
It actually has a higher review on IMDb than I thought it would. Let's see, what was its reception? It made its money. And Kotaku actually gave it a positive review, but everyone else is like, it's fine. Sorry, so you were saying.
I mean, I just think, like, the idea of, like, having a camera that you use to cleanse ghosts is cool. And I think, like, the kind of abandoned Japanese village that the game is set in is a really cool setting. I just feel like you could make a pretty fun, kind of dumb horror movie out of it, and I would watch it and be into it.
Nice. Was that it? Oh.
Yeah, that was most of my pitch. I mean, I had a couple of just like the basic way that the like plot would start, where it's like so set in Japan, of course, and would follow a high school student who's visiting a shrine on a class trip and like taking pictures, and then like the shrine is up on a mountain over a forest, and there are rumors that there's an abandoned village at the foot of the mountain, and like somehow she ends up falling down the mountain but survives, and then is in the village and runs into like a ghost researcher down there or something of that nature, who gives her camera the thing that lets it hurt ghosts, and then like has to find some sort of MacGuffin so they can get out of the village.
Gotcha.
It's not a, I'm not saying that this is going to be a masterpiece, but I think it could be a fun little horror flick.
It could. I guess my next one, which is one of the one of the problems I had with this one, because it's like, this could be good, but I don't know if it really has a need to exist, and it would be a film adaptation of Deus Ex.
Okay.
And the reason I'm like, is because it would basically end up in my brain being like a hybrid of, because like it's basically RoboCop. Anyway, where it's like a normal dude who gets super fucked. I guess what I'm thinking of not the original Deus Ex, but the one Mankind Divided, because I think that's a better like character to latch onto, instead of, because J.C. Denton is already like a super ubermensch guy when you meet him, and he's just an attached robot. Or with Adam Jensen, he was a dude who gets fucked up and is just upset about it. He gets RoboCopped, but I guess it would end up being like a mix between RoboCop and Blade Runner.
Well, and like that world is also very similar to Ghost in the Shell in particular.
Yeah.
Where like the backstory for the main character in at least the show Ghost in the Shell was that like as a kid she was in a horrible accident and they had to put her into a robot body. But like when you meet her in the show, the like high performance one that she uses is literally owned by Section 9, who she works for. And as I recall, that was like, wasn't that part of the plot in Deus Ex, was like some of his robot bits were owned by the company he works for or something?
Not, I mean, like they're made by Seraph Industries, but it's not like they're owned by you and we can take them. They don't really ever talk about, we'll take your body parts away if you fuck up. It more comes down to, because we made them, we haven't told you everything that's in them, and that comes back to like fuck him up a few times.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I don't know, it's a movie that I don't feel needs to exist, because I'm like, if you want to experience the story, just play Deus Ex Mankind Divided. It's a really good game and has a good story. So that was like my biggest thing with this, is I'm like, why would I make a movie out of these to watch? Because the other one I had, because I'm going to just jump ahead and do a second one real quick, because it's dumb and it's not as well thought out as I'm assuming your Zelda one is, which I would probably watch because the game itself is stupid, and I think you would like it because it's another Platinum game, is a movie version of Vanquish.
I don't even know that game.
Holy
I feel like
shit.
I've heard you talk about it before, but I know almost nothing about it.
Okay, well, I was going to say, hold on, don't buy it yet. When we get up there, I want you to play it on stream. It's
all right.
It's a game where it's all about third-person shooting, and you're in this weird little, like, it's a robot suit, but it's not it's not a mech suit. I don't know what you would call it, just like a body robot suit. But the main thing is you jet slide around on your knees with boosters that shoot out of your ass and your feet. And you're just shooting guns to kill robots and aliens. And I think it may work slightly better than Bayonetta, only because Bayonetta, like, she looks like a person all the time. So there would be, like, that conflict between clearly a person and fighting CG things. Whereas when Sam is in Vanquish mode, he's in a robot suit, so everything could just be on screen CG, and so it would all, like, visually cohesively fit.
Yeah.
I do need to play Bayonetta, but
I love those games.
Evan keeps bringing up that he's going to buy them on Switch, and then he just forgets.
Well, he is a fool then, because, like, I feel like those are some of the best games on Switch. But
did you hear that Platinum's bringing back a couple of their games to remaster them?
I didn't.
They're going to redo and then possibly do a sequel to The Wonderful 101. And then people are guessing that maybe Scalebound is coming back.
I don't know too much about either of those, but
Wonderful 101, I think, would be a game that's right up your alley. It's like a weird action game, but you're playing as like a group of like tiny. It's like imagine if Bayonetta and Pikmin had a baby.
I see. Yeah.
But all right, let's hear this Zelda movie.
All right.
Oh
so,
boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to like summarize it as best I can, because when I started this, my thought was I'll just like write a basic sketch outline of like what the scenes are in one movie. And what I ended up doing was writing the scenes out for the first movie of a trilogy, and then writing the like major synopsis of the second and third parts of the trilogy.
All right. The Triforce trilogy. So are they going to be named like Legend of Zelda, like Power, Wisdom, and Courage?
No.
You're missing out on that theming.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, because when I wrote the name, I was like thinking about it as just one movie. So, I mean, obviously, I will have to have other names. Maybe that would be the way to go. But he doesn't collect the Triforce in this one. So.
Oh man, nerds are gonna eat you for breakfast.
Does he collect the Triforce in every game though? Isn't it like sometimes just on him?
He's never just had it. If it's in the game and important, he has to get it. Before we go any further, I have to ask, because you asked me, who is playing Link in this movie?
Okay, so I actually did think through, like, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I have 7 roles that I picked actors for. But for Link, my preference is actually that it would be an unknown, but I did pick one person who I felt like maybe could be the Link. If you like insist on having a recognizable face, which is Bo Burnham.
Okay, I already hate everything about this. As long as you get to be true to Link and he's not allowed to talk.
He actually is not allowed to talk in the movie, yeah.
Okay, then.
Which is like part of why I prefer like an unknown is like I think I want Link to remain sort of a cipher. Like any communicating he's doing is just like visually and maybe some hias. But he doesn't get to say words. So
oh my god.
The story is like sort of cobbled together from a couple of the games, mainly Ocarina of Time. But then like also has some elements of my own that I've added. The first game starts with Link, and he's living in a village like the one at the start of Ocarina of Time. And there's little like scenes with like the other villagers bullying him because he's not like them or whatever. And then Saria brings him to the Deku Tree, who explains to Link that he was left in that village as a child, and normally they would have kicked him out because he's not actually an elf, but the symbol on his hand of the Triforce told them that he was the chosen one from the prophecy, all the like basic Zelda stuff.
Okay.
And the Deku Tree explains to him that there's a sickness that has begun to spread through the forest and throughout the land as a whole. And he knows that Link has to go to a shrine in the forest to like start his quest to save the forest and the world. I did pick a voice for the Deku Tree. It's gonna be
Nicolas Cage.
Patrick Stewart.
Oh.
I feel like that's... Who did you say?
I said Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Because you know Nicolas Cage would do it. Patrick Stewart ain't got time for this shit. He's making another season of Picard.
That's probably true. But anyways, so there's like they sneak past a bunch of what did I write down? The bokoblins in the forest to get to the temple, the first temple that Link has to go to. And inside he fights some sort of laser temple thing and cleverly shuts it down. And then that opens the door to the chamber where he meets Chi, which is the name that I've given to the weird like spirit thing that I drew.
Oh boy.
So that's like this game's version of Navi, or where it's like the character that's going to follow him around and kind of
Or the best
Uh,
version, Fee.
I do like feel.
Oh my god, I hate everything about this, not because of your idea, but because of all the things you're saying about other things.
Wait, what? The mic cut out a bit there.
It doesn't matter. I'm just being. It's like I'm being angry at Pokemon again for its stupid nutballs. I'm angry at you for liking Fee and wanting to put Bo Burnham in this.
I mean, it's not. It's just because I felt like he had the right look. Like he looks kind of young and scraggly.
That is true.
And as you may recall, I did say my ideal pick is an unknown.
Yeah, I know, but of all the people you could have picked, is the fact that it's Bo Burnham. I don't like Bo Burnham, so that was just what it was.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not like a huge fan. I don't know,
him.
came into my face as like, or into my brain as like a person who would at least look okay in the role. But
Okay.
all right, you know what? Let's just cross him off. He's out.
Yeah, get out of here. Yeah, man.
He's out of this movie. Get out of here. You can't be in my Fantasy Zelda movie that I didn't want you in anyways because I wanted an unknown.
Who's your
Are we
favorite
happy now?
unknown? Okay. There we go.
Who's my favorite unknown?
Yeah, let's see if you keep telling me who they are, I'll spread their name far and wide and they'll no longer be unknown, and eventually this movie will never get made. So anyway, you meet with Chi in the Deku Tree.
Mm-hmm.
And then
So Chi is played by Aubrey Plaza and is kind of like sarcastic, like a very sarcastic Navi. I'm seeing more unhappiness here. I'm seeing we're really hating Robert's movie idea.
That's fine. Just keep going. Just keep going, I guess.
So, she explains to Link that the weapon that they need to fight the darkness is held in Hyrule Castle. So, Link leaves the forest following the road to Hyrule, and then there would be an action sequence where it's like night on the road, and he gets attacked by Stalfos, the like skeleton guys.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like running for his life, dodging blows, and then a Sheik-style ninja shows up and like kind of saves him in a moment of desperation and leads him to Kakariko Village and gives him a sword. And then like the ninja disappears and he spends the night in Kakariko Village and then goes on the road, and as he's on the road he's getting kind of like lectured by Chi about how he needs to be more careful, and they're like not paying attention and wander into a grove full of Deku Babas and Choo-Choos and Skatulas, and there's just like a big fight. And then so this all leads up to my favorite scene of them. In the process of the fight, they alert a Hinox, which are the big like Cyclops guys that you fight in Breath of the Wild, and it's like chasing them through the forest, and they like are running away, and then they get out of the forest and can see across a field as Hyrule Castle, and Link runs past a farm, and there's a Cucco. What do you call the chicken things? Cocos?
Yeah, they're Cuccos.
Cuccos, yeah. So he like picks it up in the road so that it can't get hurt, and they're like still running away, and he's cradling this chicken and running, and then the Hinox throws a boulder, and Link dodges it, but a little like bit of the boulder splinters off and hits the Cucco, and it turns red and summons the Cucco swarm to take out the Hinox, and so that's how they defeat the Hinox. We're still loving this movie. Yep. So he goes to Hyrule, has to sneak into the castle. He meets Princess Zelda while he's in the castle, and she shows him where the treasure or where the weapon is kept, but he has to get 3 sacred gems in order to open it up. One from the just from all of the Gorons, the Zora, and the Gerudo. So then like Zelda sneaks him out of the castle, and they think he got out unseen, but you see through the camera like a shot. Oh, also Zelda has explained to him that he needs to be careful in the castle because like some sort of darkness has been invading and the king has been acting weird. So like as they think they're sneaking out, you can see the silhouette of the king in like the window of a high tower seeing what's going on. So Link like goes to spend the night in an inn, and then a weird shadow monster like starts coming through the door, and they have a fight, and he leads it outside of town, and that's like the big final battle of the first movie is between Link and the shadow creature, and he like, with the help of the ninja who shows up again, manages to pin it down and kill it when sunlight comes up and obliterates the shadow thing. And that's the end of the first movie and of all the like detailed plot elements that I had. But the second movie is just him finding the Zora and the Goron gems, and like also meeting a Goron hero and a Zora hero who will help him. And then the third movie is the Gerudo gem, the return to Hyrule Castle to get the weapon and also purge the darkness from the king, and then the return to the forest where he goes into the Deku Tree, and like it turns out that that's where Ganon has been sealed this time for thousands of years. So like, of course it's Ganon again, and he's breaking out, which is why darkness is starting to come, and he beats Ganon and reseals him. I take it my trilogy is not getting greenlit.
If I was being 100% honest, if being like someone who, I mean, if this was the same year like Breath of the Wild 2 came out, I'd probably greenlit it because we get that sweet cash. But if it was like there hasn't been like a Zelda thing in a while and this is the first thing, I don't know, probably not.
Yeah.
Not that it was a bad idea, it's just this is one of the things where it's like, I could just play the Zelda games and have almost that same experience you said. Like, I don't know, me as a gamer person wouldn't necessarily want to watch that. But that's just fair. Because this topic was like, man, I can't think of any... I'm trying to think of games that, like, the games weren't good, but, like, oh, the story was really cool. Basically, like, anything that David Cage has come up with, but taken away and rewritten to not be garbage, would...
Yeah. I guess, like, part of the reason that I like the idea of a Zelda movie is just that world is so, like, visually beautiful and... distinct in a lot of ways, and like seeing that the Zelda world get like an Avatar level treatment would be really cool, I think. But
I think that would be really cool, but most of Avatar is computer generated. It's basically an animated film.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it was an animated one, I would be down. Like, this is another one of those ones where it's, we don't have the technology for, like, to my taste, make one where like it all meshes really well.
Yeah.
Because you'd need to have everything be like, you couldn't just film it in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And be like, yep, practical effects.
That's true. Yeah, it's like a special effects out the ass $1 budget movie.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to say when he was running with the Kuko, he was accidentally going to like run off a cliff, but then the Kuko was going to start flying. He was going to be hanging on to it.
Yeah, I liked my version.
No, it was good. That would be like the haha funny moment that everyone who played the games would get it, and everyone else would be like, "What the fuck?" Well, I have one more idea that probably won't get greenlit because like the idea for it is probably too dumb, and it's also mildly cheating because it's a movie for Hitman, and there have already been 2 Hitman movies. And they're both poo-poo garbage.
Well, I mean, so it's the same with the Fatal Frame thing, then. You just want the good one.
Yes. And I guess the thing I would do to try to make it as close to the feelings of the game and true to... Because the other 2, like, follow Agent 47 and try to characterize him really hard. But that's not what the games are about. The games are, for the most part, Agent 47 is this just unstoppable force of killing, which would make for a boring character in a movie because you're not playing as them. So the idea would be is he is not the main character, but he is a major force, where the movie would actually be like a mix of almost like a John Wick film and a horror film, where it follows police and then a crime organization that is being targeted by 47, and 47... It's one of those things where it's like something's happening and he comes in and just starts like killing them. And the other thing I thought about is kind of like a running joke that is in the 47 is that he's actually really bad at disguise, because he'll just like put on a shirt and his giant barcode is there, but everyone else is too stupid to like figure it out.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would mesh well with this idea of the movie. So the other idea would be is that there wouldn't just be one actor who plays 47. It would be like maybe 10 guys who all look pretty similar, but it would create the idea is that even though you see them in different disguises and he might like change even within the same scene, is no one's getting a good look at him. And it would just be one of those things where the cops would be like, how is this guy doing all this killing? And then the crime family would be like the horny kids at the summer camp, where it's like they're getting picked off and starting to panic, and they're like, it's game over, man, and then one gets pulled into the vents.
Yeah. It's fun. It sounds a lot like the way that Golgo 13 works in like a lot of those stories, where like a lot of them are not following Golgo 13 himself.
Oh.
They're like following investigators who are like, what is this impossible, like how did this guy get sniped? There's nowhere he could have got sniped from. Only the most impossible of Uber snipers could have done it. I mean, like, it's a dumb show. I imagine your movie's better, but
probably not. But that was just the idea, is just because like I loved the idea in John Wick 1 that John Wick was just this established force of terror, that when he goes, I'm coming for you, to the dude over the phone is trying so hard to like maintain his cool while not shitting his pants.
Yeah.
That's what Hitman would be, but Hitman would have that extra fear factor of him not being like, hi, I'm Hitman and this is my story. I bet you're wondering how I got here, record scratch moment.
Yeah.
It would just be this dude who's killing people, and people are like having like it'd be like when those guys are like, Batman, where are you? And then Batman's like, I'm right here, and then pulls him into the shadows. All of that would happen, except then that guy would then be in a body bag.
Well, and I could see you even doing like an interesting thing with a movie like that, where you don't even know like who hired Hitman, but like the plot could maybe heavily imply it. So like part of the fun of the movie would be watching what Hitman's doing, watching how people are reacting to it, and like trying to figure out which of these people is responsible for the fact that Hitman is here picking off a shitload of people.
But and it would be like the criminals are like, they would be like, and I'd want to have a couple criminals who are like not bad, like they're bad dudes, like maybe they shake people down stuff, but they're not horrible murderers. But they're caught up in Hitman's thing to like wipe out this crime organization. So they're the ones that the people like and are like, oh man, I don't want Valentino to die. And that'll be where the horror ramps up, where like you'll see the guy like, he's run out of the room where all of his friends been killed, and he's run out into public and he's like, I'll be safe. And then you just kind of see people in the background pass, and they're like, they'll be bald, but they'll have like a hat on, or sometime like, because they never do it in the games. Like all the outfits are just like normal things you put on, but since it's a movie, we can do whatever we want. But like shit, where he's wearing like a fake face, so like he could like pull off his thing in the background. You're like, oh god, that's actually Hitman behind him the whole time. Run, Valentino! And Valentino's just like, oh. And while they're surviving, the cops are trying to stop Hitman and figure out where he's coming from. So that's because like there is a sort of interesting lore to Hitman, where he is a test tube baby that got made, and he was made to kill everyone. Like the most interesting Hitman story actually happens in Hitman 1, the very first game, where you like because he's one of those characters like, I don't know my past. He learns he's a test tube baby, and that there's actually like 50 of him in the world. And the final mission of Hitman 1 is him killing all of his clones in this insane asylum, and then finding the doctor who made him and then killing him. So that scene could be really cool. So that could also be the thing, is you're maybe not dealing with one Hitman. There actually could be all the other Hitmen. And then you learn that there's the one good Hitman who's trying to stop the bad Hitmen. And that would be like the big twist. And then the final, to get that money shot of over-the-top action, it's the scene of like the cops and the good criminals watching the good Hitman killing 49 clones of himself in an insane gun battle. And then like at the end, everyone's just kind of sitting there, and then 47's just gone. And like that'd be the thing, is they don't even do his name thing, so they're like, which one didn't die, and they're like, the 47th one. And then, end of movie. Executive director Dick Wolf or whatever. I don't know.
Well, I'm greenlighting. That sounds like a cool movie to me, but I think that's actually the movie I'm most interested in of all of the ones pitched today. So
I made it up like as you were talking. I was just like,
I feel like sometimes that's how it goes.
But I don't know. I can't think. Like, Prince of Persia was okay. I think that one was good. I was trying to think of any movie video games that were actually all right. I'm sure you've seen the Doom movie, right?
The Doom movie? Yeah, I watched that.
What did you think of the first-person section in that movie?
I remember thinking it was pretty cool when I was younger, but like it's been a long ass time since I watched it, so maybe like it wouldn't hold up as much for me now. I don't know.
Oh, because that's a scene I hear people talk about a lot, where people are like, "It's really stupid," or people are like, "No, it was the one cool part of the movie." I would watch.
I feel like it's kind of both.
I would watch a movie based on 2016 Doom, too. Now that I say that out loud, where it's just it's not a horror movie. It's an action. I don't know, what would you call that? An action horror? Because there's like Doom isn't a scary game because you are the scariest thing in hell.
Yeah.
I guess it would just be a John Wick demon movie where it's just a dude just murder fucking his way through the underworld. That could be pretty rad.
Yeah.
It'd be like the Mad Max Fury Road of demon murder, where it's just non-stop that.
Yeah. Definitely, like, the hard part, I think, would be one of the same difficult things with Zelda, where, like, you have a silent protagonist, and I kind of feel like giving a voice to the Doom Marine would sort of, like, make him not as good, you know? So, like...
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I personally would be like really into watching a movie with a silent protagonist who was like that, who's like just interesting because of what they're doing, and like other characters say things to them but they don't necessarily talk. But I don't know if like you ever get a movie like that through a studio, you know, especially a big budget special effects thing like that would have to be.
I think you're right about for this movie to be like an actual good movie that has some impact aside from just gratuitous violence. They'd have to really carry the art element, I think, of a silent protagonist who just basically communicates through emotes and rage and like how he interacts with other people. But the other thing is, if people are like, no, we can't do a silent protagonist, is Doom Guy, aka Flynn McTaggart, does have a history of being not a silent protagonist. He has like a whole comic line and stuff where he's talking like, that's the very famous rip and tear, you're huge so you must have huge guts line. I think there are people who could play someone who is just raging and yelling, who, I don't know, like a more interesting version of Master Chief who doesn't talk a lot, who will just kind of say as much as he needs to and then goes and kills things.
Yeah, I guess like if you put someone really gravelly like Ron Perlman in that suit.
Oh my god, that's all I want now. Where it would be like a scene with him would be like all of a sudden he'd be like, the nega energy's pouring out. If we don't stop it, we're all gonna die, and the poles on the Earth will be flipped. That'll change how the way physics works. And then Doom Guy just be like, okay, I'm gonna go kill stuff now. Bye. And then he'd be like, Doom Guy, wait! And he's already just jumping out of the window, just free falling and shooting stuff, and everyone's like, God damn it, McTaggart, you beautiful son of a bitch.
Well, the nice thing from a budget perspective is you really only have to hire Ron Perlman for like voiceovers, because that dude's in armor all the time.
He does take off his helmet, but
oh, he does.
But for this movie, it could just be like you do it how they do in the games, because like in like original Doom Guy, you saw his face all the time, like down at the bottom.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I don't think he does it in 1, but they've already showed it in Doom Eternal. He does have his helmet off, and you can see like the side of his face. But you could do that and still have Ron Perlman, as long as it doesn't focus right on his face. Oh my god, I think that's the one I want to see the most now. is I love Ron Perlman so much.
I do too.
Did you see the new Hellboy?
I didn't. I'd like to watch it sometime, but I also feel like I'm not. I feel like I'll probably be disappointed by it.
I heard it was not very good.
Yeah, so did I.
I just was wondering. Did you see the ones with Ron Perlman in it?
Oh yeah, I have the ones with Ron Perlman.
Are there
I
three
love
of them
those
or just
movies.
two of them?
I think there's just two. It was
Okay.
planned as a trilogy, but like the first two just weren't successful enough at the box office for them to greenlight a third, which is sad. But
Man, I'm just trying to think of like one more. Like Red Dead Redemption is so good on its own that it doesn't need to be a movie. That was like my biggest thing is when I think of all of the one I would have said would be The Witcher, but they're making that Netflix show that is doing a good job at what it's doing. So if they just wanted to do bigger stuff than what the Netflix show is doing, that would be cool. Grand Theft Auto is just an amalgamation of different crime movies already, so they don't need to be a Grand Theft Auto movie.
yeah, well, and like the one thing that makes Grand Theft Auto kind of like unique from a normal crime story is something that like I think would be a bit of a shit show if you tried to put it in a movie.
Yeah, where they're just murdering
Like
everyone.
the on-screen optics of a just like murderation rampage are not very good.
Nope. Elder Scrolls would probably just be a generic fantasy thing, so that's not super interesting either. I mean, you could make an interesting story, but nothing in it goes, there needs to be.
Yeah, I would say that's like Fallout again, where like
Mhm.
it's a universe that you could put a cool story into.
I want to say Metal Gear Solid, but those games are so weirdly written and confusing that I guess if you just made a movie based on the first game, like just Metal Gear Solid 1, it would work fine. But those games are already deliberately extremely cinematic anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like a game that's very like cerebral, or I was trying to think of like point and click games. Like I think Monkey Island could probably make for a fun movie.
Yeah.
And
There's one that I thought about pitching, but didn't want to describe any of because I know you haven't played it yet, which is Near Automata. I
Please,
think
yeah,
you
don't.
could. Yeah, I won't say any more about it, but I do think you could get a really cool movie out of it.
I was actually trying to think of like a movie involving robots. My brain was like the Talos Principle, maybe, but that's maybe I don't know. Whoa, froze there for a second. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't know. The only one that I had really any ideas for was that Hitman one.
That you made up while I was yammering on about my terrible Zelda trilogy.
Well, your idea wasn't terrible. It was no. But my only thing is I don't. Whoa, I keep freezing up. I don't think Nintendo would greenlight Aubrey Plaza to be in their movie.
That's fair. They might not greenlight some of my other picks either.
Oh yeah, what
I
were
did
your other
actually
ones?
put Ron Perlman in this one. He was going to be the Goron hero.
That would work really well.
Yeah, he'd be a great Goron.
Okay, who's the Zora?
So the Zora was going to be Halston Sage, who played Alara from The Orville, which I don't know if you ever watched The Orville. But
I did not
it's
watch
pretty
the
good.
Orville.
She's like a really young security chief in it, but she's also like she's like from a race of aliens that's like super powerful compared to humans. So like she's really young and kind of unsure of herself, but also really strong. And I wanted the Zora hero to be like someone who was really young, but also like a powerful person. And like I think she'd do a good job.
Hey, thanks, Hypo Junkie. Oh, you rated in just as we're getting ready to close up. But I think we're going to go visit Rabin in a little bit. Sorry about that.
So my pick for Zelda was Ana de Armas, who played Joy in Blade Runner 2049.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness, who was Joy?
the AI that,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I felt like she could do a really good Zelda.
So wait, are all these people going to be like adults?
Well, I guess my thought would be they're kind of like, well, so Ron Perlman Goron is an older character, and then the Gerudo hero would
Okay,
also be like
it's
kind of an older
Gerudo.
character, Gerudo.
Yes.
Um, but the rest of them I had thought would be kind of like 16 to 20 age wise.
Oh, 'cause yeah, like usually when you're playing Zelda, Link is like at most in his late teens.
Yeah.
'Cause I think like yeah, in Ocarina of Time he's 12 and then 17.
Hmm.
But oh man, Ron Perlman can really just be in anything. Really.
That's true.
Hi, Hypo Junkie. Thanks for stopping by. We're just
Yeah.
we're talking about what games we'd like to turn into movies for at the end of our
Yeah.
podcast. So if you have any ideas, we're going to talk about that for like probably 10, 15 more minutes. um, now my brain is just trying to think of different things to put Ron Perlman in. Like I'm just like,
Man.
I'm trying to think of what video game movies have already been made. Like I would actually like a new Silent Hill that actually tries to do Silent Hill things, because like the gameplay of Silent Hill is not very important to Silent Hill. It's
Yeah. It's
that
like the tone and the atmosphere.
exactly, which I think would translate very well to film.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, I think we talked about this before. Like, I genuinely like the first Silent Hill movie, but
Okay,
it definitely
you,
is.
You
Like,
genuinely like it because you said I thought it was okay. So
no, I mean, I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I do think it's pretty good. I actually wrote an essay about it when I was in college,
oh, okay,
because,
that's
like,
more hopeful than how you described it before.
okay, like, I think it's like thematically, it's a movie about some of the dangers of blind faith.
Mm.
Like the antagonists in it are this group of people who are like sort of part of a witch coven, if I remember correctly. And the kind of like evil girl who's like maybe not evil or maybe that's hard to explain. It's a weird mess of a movie in a lot of ways, but like basically in their blind faith, they did this terrible thing to this little girl that kind of like kicked off the evil that grew in the town of Silent Hill.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And like I just thought there were some interesting themes about that, and like even if it's kind of dumb that they threw in a character like Pyramid Head just because he was recognizable, or characters like the nurses, like
Yeah.
it kind of sucks because what's interesting about Silent Hill is the way that the monsters are supposed to reflect the psychological struggles of the people who are trapped there. And like obviously taking those characters out of context and dropping them into the movie doesn't make sense. But they at least like looked cool in the movie for whatever that's worth.
So, like, I think that would be the fun part of making the film is being able to is coming up with completely new monsters that fit to whatever
Yeah.
problem the character is facing.
Yeah, for sure.
But trying to think of what some other really good ones would be. So the game where they like, because game like most indie games, like when they are made with they're either walk around simulators, which would all make okay-ish movies. Like Soma would probably make a pretty good movie, or they're games that are built just purely around a gameplay mechanic and don't have a lot of story, so they're hard to like really build one around.
Yeah. I could see maybe like a really like you'd have to flesh out the characters and lore of Enter the Gungeon, but I feel like you could make some really cool action scenes in that universe.
I feel like that would just look so. My brain can't not see it as like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit
Yeah,
style
I guess
movie.
like all of the I wasn't thinking about the fact that like all of the enemies are bullet themed. That would look really dumb, wouldn't it? Just like live action people shooting at giant bullets with arms and legs.
like if you completely played it goofy, where like their dungeons or like the bullets are like, "Come to the dungeon, we'll kill ya," and it's just people are like, "Yeah, you can go in here and die, but you don't actually die. It's fine," and it turns into something. I think that could work if you went in full force with that. But no, if you tried to do like a Bomberman Act Zero about it, and like all the enemies are like weird bullet homunculi where they're just like corpses made out of bullets that shamble at you, that would probably be too edgy 5 for most people who watch it. But I had one in my brain that I was going to be like this, and then as soon as you said Enter the Gungeon, my brain just immediately saw human live-action people firing imaginary guns at cartoon bullet people, and I just lost all track of thought.
That's fair. It was like, I think I pretty quickly realized how dumb of an idea that was, and it's perfectly fair for like the stupidity of that movie to have shocked you out of whatever you were thinking about.
Because we're talking about game loops, and then games that don't need a game loop to be good.
I think something like Valhalla you could make a really good movie out of, but at the same time, like that would be one where I'm like, I don't even know why you need to make the movie, because the game already is like just the narrative, but I feel like it's better explored as a game.
Yeah, like that was what the problem with this one was, is like make something that is an elevated version of what it is rather than just an alternative to it. So I'm just trying to think of games where like, man, playing this is not very cool, but I really like the world. Like Undertale. Undertale would probably make, with some parts, to me, would make a better movie than a game, because I did not enjoy playing Undertale. Like, the bullet hell shooting was annoying as fuck. But the world was really cool, but I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that's another world. I mean, I feel like you would have to do that one animated. Like, I don't think any realistic rendering of Undertale would be likely to look good.
Well, it's just going to be Nicolas Cage with a whole bunch of bones taped to him, and he's still only going to talk by going
So he's Sans then.
Yeah, he is both Sans and Papyrus.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing. He's such a dynamic actor.
He's gonna do both.
He's gonna do both. But the thing that's a twist is the movie is the genocide run.
Getting dark with it.
Yep. People are gonna be like, I brought my kids to this.
I don't want to have to watch the genocide run of Undertale, though. I love those characters. Oh.
Yep. It's gonna destroy everything that you love. The one that I thought about, I think that would make a good movie, and it could even be a Coen Brothers film, is the movie Papers, Please.
Okay, yeah. That could definitely make a good one.
Yeah, that was the one that I thought was like that was also a good game to play, but just seeing, because you don't really get to like see your character like fall apart by the choices you make because you're your character, but having to watch another human being be the border patrol, denying people in who are like, if I don't get in, my aunt's going to die from whatever, and you're like, you don't have the right paperwork, I'm sorry, and then just watching that destroy someone. It's a movie I would not want to watch, but I could see it winning awards for being like, man, most tears for whoever.
Well, and the I don't know why that made me think of another one too, but one that I would also love to see Coen Brothers do a movie about, and this I think would be another one where it's like this universe as a place that you set a smaller story in and then make the movie of that smaller story, is Dark Souls. Like, if you wanted to do like one of the stories of one of the Dark Souls side characters, like maybe you follow Solaire's story and like see that descent into like darkness, you know, or just like
really hard to do, but I think it could work.
Yeah,
that could be like a really artistic dark fantasy film.
Which, like, yeah, if you did that right, I'd watch the shit out of that.
Oh. I think you dwell too much in dark entertainment for how like much anxiety and stuff. Yeah, I think you're fueling your own issues with all this.
Your mic's cutting out a lot.
That's fine. I'm just talking out of my ass. Man. Yeah, Dark Souls. Just trying to think of some good indie games.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyone in the comments who has anything, we'd love to hear from you guys too. And don't forget, our Twitter poll has a couple more days. We're voting on the next LP for the channel. It's between Witcher 3 and Dragon Quest 11. Right now there's 3 votes, and Dragon Quest is behind by 1 vote.
I feel like this is the dumbest pitch.
Oh boy.
It's like, even just the thought of making this pitch is dumb, but I just want to pitch it because it's such a bad idea as a Hyperdimension Neptunia movie. Yep. Such a bad idea. I'm not even going to hear a response.
I don't know enough about the world except that everyone's a video game console and stupid. Yeah. So, I guess. First of all, that would just never get made because, like, I feel that all the different game companies would sue because they're like, they would all have to be involved because, like, that's clearly our Nintendo character. I don't know. I could see that movie being a logistical nightmare. I mean,
like, even in the Hyperdimension games, like, it's not a 1-to-1 in terms of, like, what the names of the systems are. It's just like you're supposed to understand that this character is an analog for Xbox, or this one. Like, Vert is the Xbox person, and her country's name is Leanbox. Or, like, Noir is the PlayStation person, and her country's name is Last Station. So, like, it's not 1-to-1 like that. I think they could get away with it from that perspective. But.
Maybe. But also, it's... Oh, my God.
I feel like the problem with that movie is that it never gets beyond being, like, a really dumb cosplay fan film. Like, I don't think there's any way to elevate that material beyond that point.
You just go really low budget, and then we just hope enough weebs buy it that we make a profit.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Diablo could probably make an interesting, dark action fantasy film.
Yeah, that's true. Because that's another one where it's just like a big universe that you can do interesting things in.
Mm-hmm. One I would like to see, even though I don't think it's ever going to happen, and I don't know if there's enough to, like, support it, is an Overwatch movie. Because, like, the lore seems interesting, but, like, I'm not really big into multiplayer games. Like, I'll play them with you guys because it's fun, but Overwatch is a game I get bored of really fast. But the characters seem really likable.
Yeah, the characters are really likable, and, like, when they release the animated shorts for Overwatch, they're, like, honestly one of the coolest things. Like, they're all really cool to watch, I think, and I would certainly be interested in, like, a feature-length version of the animated Overwatch shorts.
Okay, this is a weird one, and I think it would need to be an anime, but I would really like to see a film version of Jet Set Radio.
Okay.
I don't know what it would be about, but it feels to me like a movie like Redline, where it'd be more, if it's done to, like, the dream like specifications, it would just be a movie that's like a visual and audio feast of people just grinding on rails, so, like, the sparks are all exaggerated and they're doing graffiti while doing backflips.
And the animation is presumably, like, syncing really well to a dope soundtrack.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd check that out.
I heard there might be either doing a remaster or making a new Jet Set Radio. I know it would be a great movie, though, is Carmageddon.
I don't know a lot about Carmageddon.
It's a racing game where you... Oh, holy shit, there already is a movie that is Carmageddon. It's just Death Race. I forgot. It's a racing game where you score points by running over pedestrians.
Okay, yeah. I feel like that's another one where like the optics of it as a movie aren't going to be great. But
Yeah, that's why I was bringing it up, but I forgot that there's a movie starring David Carradine where it's that. But it's like a dark parody film. Like it's not like done like it's one of those movies where it's like in a dystopia where business is whatever. Where it's like people are sad you get run over, but it's like, oh man, grandma was worth 5,000 points. That's crazy. Good job, Frankenstein. That's the name of David Carradine's character.
yeah.
So it's like
Oh man.
one of those movies. But people, when that movie came out, flipped shit. They were like, ah. So yeah, I don't think that would do very well.
Yeah. One that just occurred to me, if you have like a time machine so you could go back 10 or 15 years in time, I feel like you could make a Dead Rising movie that'd be pretty cool.
Are you saying it has to come out before?
Before everyone is like sick to death of zombies.
Well, how would it differentiate itself between that and like is it Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead, the one that's in the mall?
Dawn of the Dead is the one that's in the mall. I guess that's a fair point. I would say that like I think Dawn of the Dead has a component to it where it like is supposed to mean something beyond just being a zombie movie. Like there's definitely a commentary on consumerism in Dawn of the Dead, whereas I feel like when you're making Dead Rising the movie, you're just doing a dumb zombie action movie, like the remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Gotcha. All right, fair enough.
Which, okay, fair point though. That already exists, the zombie movie in a mall. So,
Echo the Dolphin, the movie.
And
it has to follow the narrative of the game where it's like, ah, man, I'm in the ocean, but then suddenly aliens come and abduct you, and you have this horrific Geiger-esque final fight against this alien, but like there's no people in it, so there's no dialogue. It's just this terrified dolphin headbutting sharks and aliens to death.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds interesting.
And it's directed
I can't
by
see
Eli
any
Roth.
studio putting the money into this, but I would certainly watch it if they made it. But I would also watch a lot of weird shit if they made it. So.
Yeah, I feel like you're the person. Anytime like I see stuff, I'm like, who would watch this? Not who would enjoy it, but who would like take time to be like, all right, I'll click on that, and I'm like, oh, that's Robert.
A lot of the times, yeah.
I feel like it would probably just be like a less interesting version of Starship Troopers, but maybe an Earth Defense Force movie. Where you're just fighting giant insects on Earth.
Certainly some cool action scenes in that premise. How about Garfield Kart, the movie?
I don't think the world's ready for that level of terror yet.
Probably true.
I mean, I don't know how it's going to get a release when it clearly is going to be rated NC-17.
Yeah. They'll have to come up with a new rating for it, actually. Something above NC-17.
It's rated
like NC
IHM for
You're
I
not
Hate
allowed
Mondays.
to watch it.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's rated Terminus, where you're only allowed to watch it if you're already on your deathbed.
Yeah.
I know the one you want. You want a Viva Pinata movie.
Not really. I do like those games, but I do not believe there's a good movie in there.
Well,
I guess there
movie,
was a TV show in there.
There was. But you want the movie because that will spark interest in them making another Viva Pinata game.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't really need another. If they would release it if they would just like release Viva Pinata 2 to PC, that would be nice.
Is that the note we want to go out on? Is Viva Pinata?
Maybe.
I don't have any other ones.
Yeah.
All right. So
okay, wait, I have one more.
Okay.
I think there's an interesting movie in Hotline Miami.
Yes, I had that one in my brain, and then when you went Gungeon, my brain went, And I lost Hotline. Yeah, Hotline Miami would have to be like one where it's for it to be like what it is, like super surreal, like the costume work. Like no one looks like a normal person. People all would have like weird blue hair and like pink super hot lips, and it's every set just needs to be designed to accentuate just egregious blood splattering.
Yeah,
I think that could be one. But I think for it to work and not to just be something that turns people off, it would kind of have to be the thing we were talking about with either Hitman or Gogol 13, where you're not following Jacket or whoever is in the movie, the protagonist. You're following the police who like come to the scene and see the carnage, and then it does like a thing where you see how it happened afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe you can do a version where it's like a way more violent Taxi Driver and just like you're following this crazy guy, because that's like part of the game, right? Is that like something's going on that's interfering with his brain and making him crazy.
I mean, he's just crazy.
Yeah, but it probably is the case that you're right, and he's just like too crazy and violent for like even the kind of person who would say I'm gonna sit down and watch Taxi Driver to be like, yeah, I'm on board for this.
Because like Taxi Driver only is really violent, if I remember correctly. Is it like in the last third is when he starts doing it?
Yeah, it's like there's violence, but it's more about like watching this like kind of disgusting crazy guy.
So I'm like, if
escalating towards the violence.
So I'm like, if we're making an artistic version, unless we went like the full costume workup, we would just be making Driver again. Because that's basically what Driver is. It's just this quiet, clearly mentally disturbed person going in and horribly murdering people.
Wait, Driver or Drive?
Drive, sorry.
Okay. The one that I keep trying to get you to watch. All right.
I will say I don't want to watch that this week after watching this, because I know Drive is also a depressing downer movie.
Yeah.
So do you want to watch Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah, I'd be down for that.
Or do you have another one?
I mean, I have a big old list of things to pitch, but I'd definitely watch Shawshank.
Well, do you have any new ones that you haven't pitched already?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what do you got? Maybe you'll have one that I'm like, oh, that movie. Or if there's anyone in the comments who has a suggestion for a movie for us to watch, and then just bumblefuck over.
We've got a couple of cool suggestions from comments while we've been doing it. Like
Rope. Rope was awesome.
An awesome movie.
Thanks again, Dervik.
Indeed.
If you're still there.
So I have I know almost nothing about this movie, but being John Malkovich sounds interesting to me.
Okay.
One that is an infamously bad movie that I noticed recently is free on Amazon Prime is Troll 2.
I don't want to watch that movie.
Okay.
If it was Halloween, I would be interested, but I've seen that movie and it is bad.
Fair enough. I'm trying to pick out on my list the few things that aren't downers. That might be it.
Oh my god. Okay,
I had Battlefield Earth on there as just a weird one that might be interesting to talk about.
I've also seen
that movie. I don't really want to watch Battlefield Earth.
It is bad. It is a really bad movie. All right, being John Malkovich sounds awesome. I've only seen a bit of it, but it is a weird movie.
Okay. I mean, are you sure you want to? Because I don't know if it's a downer or an upper. Or
I don't think it's a downer.
What's going on with that movie? Okay.
All right. Cool. And we'll just bug John Malkovich on Twitter all week and see if we can trick him into coming onto the podcast.
Is that going to become Couch Gag Part 2? Is you're just going to bug someone from every movie we watch to come on the podcast?
Eventually we'll watch a Nicolas Cage movie, and then you'll just be like, I wasn't doing anything. How are you guys doing? I'm like, it was good. We really liked that part where you turned into a skeleton on a motorcycle. And he's going to be like, I actually did that. That wasn't CG. And I'll be like, you know what? I don't disbelieve you. Nicolas Cage, do you want to be a skeleton in another movie that my friend's working on based on a famous children's video game for children?
Oh man.
And then he's like, "Do you mean Undertale? I love that game." And I'm just gonna be like, "Oh my god, Nick Cage, what the fuck?" And then the podcast ends with you and Nicolas Cage face-offing and switching faces. And then you get to be Robert Cage for the rest of your life.
That would be pretty weird.
All right, so game thing to talk about. The thing that popped into my head when I was thinking about earlier is just thinking about how we've been playing co-op is ways to make co-op in games more interesting. So kind of like another game jam thing again.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. All right, we figured it out. Everyone left before we could raid. Oh well, we'll raid again. So anyway, yeah. Tomorrow we'll very likely be playing Dragon Quest Builders 2, I think. If we're all at the point where co-op is available. If not, I'll play like Assassin's Creed or something. Who knows? But yeah, and then Saturday will be the next entry into our D&D campaign. Let's see, is Raven still going? Oh, he's not. We'll say hey to Northern Rush again. He's doing all right. Oh, he has weird eye makeup on. You crazy bird. But anyway, thanks for everyone who stopped by.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.